All right, welcome to The Explainer. This is where we break down really complex topics by looking right at the source material. And today, man, we are diving into a super high-stakes ceasefire between the US and Iran. We're talking about a peace that is so fragile, it feels like it could just shatter at any second.
So, our analysis kicks off with this pretty chilling prediction about the former president's temperament. I mean, this quote really sets the stage, right? It just shows you how volatile everything is, how the whole deal could literally fall apart in a single moment of anger.
Okay, so to really get why that quote is so important, we have to look at what was happening on the ground, like right after the agreement was made. The source material calls this ceasefire tenuous at best. What does that tell you? It tells you that from day one, it was already starting to come apart at the seams.
And get this, the source really drives home this idea of a ticking clock. We're not talking weeks or months here. We're talking about the next 3 days. The analysis basically says these next 72 hours are absolutely critical. If the negotiators can't make some real headway in that little window, this whole thing could just collapse right back into open conflict. The stakes are that high.
And right away, we see the first major problem. This is what's so fascinating. It pinpoints the immediate source of friction. I mean, right out of the gate, you've got this huge disagreement over what the deal even covers. So Iran is pointing to a strike in Lebanon and saying, hey, that's a violation. But then the US and Israel are firing back saying, whoa, hold on, Lebanon was never even part of this agreement in the first place.
You know, the analysis uses this really unique phrase for the Lebanon issue, the sticky wicket. And it's such a great way to put it, isn't it? It's basically saying that this one, seemingly small issue is actually the main thing gumming up the works for the entire peace process. It's like this impossible knot that nobody can figure out how to untie.
So, who's the team tasked with trying to solve this sticky wicket? Let's turn to the American side and take a look at who's at the table, the people trying to turn this super fragile truce into something that might actually last.
And it's a really interesting group of people. First up, you've got Vice President J.D. Vance. He's leading the charge and has a direct line to the president. Then you've got Steve Whitford and Jared Kushner. Now, they've both been down this road before. They've negotiated with Iran in the past, even if it didn't work out, and kind of overseeing the whole thing is Marco Rubio, who's wearing two pretty powerful hats. So the big question is, right, can this team actually pull it off where others couldn't?
Which, of course, brings us to the real heart of the matter, the central puzzle of this whole thing. I mean, after almost 50 years of chanting death to America, after all that ingrained hostility, what on earth has changed? Why now? Why would Iran, after all this time, actually want to sit down and negotiate?
Well, according to the source material we're looking at, the answer isn't that Iran suddenly had a change of heart. Nope. The analysis argues that the real motivation, the secret ingredient, the X factor in this whole equation isn't in Washington or Tehran, it's in Beijing.
And this quote just lays it out perfectly. It's the core idea of the entire analysis. The argument is that Iran isn't just acting on its own here. No way. They're actually responding to pressure from a much bigger player on the world stage, a power that has a huge stake in keeping the region stable, and that power is China.
So here's the bottom line. This isn't just about politics. It's about money. It's economics. China has massive economic interests in that region, and those interests totally depend on things being stable, on commerce flowing freely. A full-blown conflict? That would be an absolute disaster for their bottom line. So, the theory goes, they're using their leverage with Iran to basically force a deal and protect their investments. But even with a heavyweight like China pushing from the outside, the source is still really skeptical that any of this can last. The analysis basically says, look, you can force people to sit down at a table, but that pressure might not be enough to undo decades and decades of pure mistrust.
And you can see why they're skeptical, right? I mean, behind all the handshakes and the diplomatic talk, you've still got the huge issue of Iran's nuclear program. You've still got that deep-seated death to America hostility. So there's this feeling that this is all just an act, that Iran is just playing nice for a little while. The core assessment is pretty blunt. If China wasn't in the picture, Iran wouldn't even be here.
And all of this leaves us with a final, really provocative thought from the analysis. It kind of forces us to step back and ask a much bigger question. In a world that's just a tangled web of alliances, economic pressures, and decades of broken trust, what does it actually take to build a real, lasting peace? Is all that outside pressure enough? Or do you need something more, a genuine desire for peace that, in this case, might just not be there?